Emotional manipulation rarely begins with obvious control. It begins quietly. A small guilt trip, a subtle change in tone, a moment that makes you question your own feelings. And before you realize what's happening, you slowly start losing trust in yourself. That's what makes emotional manipulation dangerous. It doesn't always attack your mind directly. Sometimes it attacks your emotions until your mind becomes confused on its own. And the scariest part is, the people who manipulate emotionally often don't look dangerous. Sometimes they look caring, attentive, even loving. Which is exactly why emotional manipulation works so well.
Manipulators understand something about human psychology that most people ignore. Emotions influence decisions faster than logic. If someone can control how you feel, they can slowly influence how you think. That's why emotional manipulation is rarely aggressive at first. Instead, it creates emotional dependency slowly. One day, someone gives you intense attention. The next day, they become distant. One moment, they praise you. The next moment, they make you feel guilty for needing reassurance. And your brain starts chasing emotional stability. Because humans naturally crave connection, validation, safety, certainty. Manipulators use those emotional needs as psychological leverage. Not always consciously, but effectively. And over time, you stop focusing on whether the relationship feels healthy. You start focusing on how to avoid losing the connection.
One of the darkest parts of emotional manipulation is that it slowly changes your emotional reality. You begin over-explaining yourself, apologizing constantly, second-guessing your reactions. You become emotionally exhausted trying to maintain peace. And eventually, you start feeling responsible for emotions that were never yours to carry. That's how manipulation traps people psychologically. Not through force, through emotional confusion. A manipulator may say, "You're overreacting. I was joking. You're too sensitive." And individually, those phrases seem harmless. But repeated over time, they slowly weaken emotional confidence. Because when someone constantly invalidates your feelings, you stop trusting your own perception. And once self-doubt appears, control becomes easier. That's why emotionally manipulated people often feel confused instead of angry. Part of them senses something is wrong, but another part keeps questioning itself.
But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never talk about. Emotional manipulation works best on people who genuinely care deeply. Empathetic people, loyal people, emotionally sensitive people. Why? Because manipulators often rely on emotional conscience. They know caring people will overthink, forgive, stay patient, and blame themselves first. That's why intelligent and emotionally aware people still fall into manipulation sometimes. It's not weakness, it's emotional humanity. But eventually, something changes. The emotionally exhausted person begins noticing patterns, the inconsistency, the guilt, the emotional pressure. And suddenly, the manipulation loses some of its power. Because manipulation survives through confusion. Awareness weakens it. The goal is not becoming emotionally cold. The goal is learning the difference between love and emotional control. Real connection does not require constant guilt. Real care does not leave you emotionally terrified of disappointing someone. And real emotional safety does not force you to abandon your own feelings just to keep peace. Because the moment you stop ignoring your emotional discomfort, you begin reconnecting with yourself again. And maybe that's the most important psychological truth of all. Manipulation becomes powerful when you stop trusting your own emotions. But healing begins the moment you finally listen to them again.